Hello students, today I'm going to do chapter 5, the early Vedic civilization. So tell me, what is this civilization and what is the year that this civilization flourished and who established them? Who established this civilization? So, according to your book, we have studied in the last chapter about the decline of the Indus Valley civilization. Like some historians had mentioned that it was the invasion by the foreign tribes, the Aryans, that may have led to its destruction. So, as we seen in your book, like around this time, the Aryans began to arrive in India in several waves. So in this chapter, we are going to do about the Aryans, how they arrived in India. So let us mark the year of the decline of the Indus Valley civilization. It was around 1500 BCE to 1000 BCE. And the Aryans also arrived in India around this time. So this proved that it was the invasion of the Aryans that led to the decline of the Indus Valley civilization. So when they arrived in India, the Aryans had a conflict with the indigenous inhabitants called the Dasas and the Dasyas. The Dasas and the Dasyas. And it took over the lands. So many historians believe that the Aryans were nomadic people who lived in Central Asia. Nomadic people means the people who move about in search of food and in search of the shelters. So they believe that they come from Central Asia. As their population increases, the Aryans were forced to move out from their original home in search of new shelters and new pastures. Pastures is the open land, okay? So those who migrated to India came to be known as the Indo-Aryans. So when the Aryans entered India, it took them several centuries to bring India under the control. They first settled in the Sapta Sindhu region. Look at the clips that I'm putting here. This is a map of the Sapta Sindhu region, okay, where there are 7 rivers. That means this region is also known as the 7 rivers because Sapta comes from the word 7 in Sanskrit, okay. So that's why they named this region as the region of 7 rivers or the Sapta Sindhu region. So here's the clip that I'm putting here, the name of the 7 rivers and the map of the Sapta Sindhu site. So the rivers are Indus, Bias, Ravi, Satluj, Chenab, Jhelum and Saraswati. So in Hindi they call Indus Sindhu, Bias Bipasha, Ravi Purushni, Satluj Shutudri, Chenab Asikini, Jhelum Vitasta, and Saraswati is Saraswati itself. Okay? They name it Brahmavarta, which means the land of the gods. And in the period between 1500 BCE and 1000 BCE, during which they lived here, is known as the early Vedic period. The history of India during this period is based mainly on the Rig Veda, which was composed during this period. Hence, this period is also known as the Rig Vedic period. So during this period, the Aryans gradually moved ahead and settled in the Gangetic Valley. The entire region under the control was renamed as Aryavarta. That means from here the Aryans are moving down to the northern plains of India, which is known as the Gangetic Valley. That means where the river Ganga flows. So this period of settlement between 1000 BCE and 500 BCE, during which they lived in the Gangetic plain, is known as the later Vedic period. So regarding the later Vedic period, we will do in the next chapter. As for now, in this chapter, we are going to do only about the early Vedic period. Next topic is about Vedic literature. So look at these clips that I'm putting here. Our chief source of information about the early Aryans is the religious literature. Literature means the written works that they had during that time, known as the Vedas. The word Veda means knowledge. So the Vedas as a treasure house of the knowledge and collective wisdom of the Aryans. So here there are 4 Vedas. First is the Rig Veda. The second one is the Atharva Veda. The third is the Sama Veda. And the fourth one is the Yajur Veda. Each of these Vedas was first composed verbally over a period of hundreds of years and was orally handed down from generation to generation. This continued for several centuries before they were finally recorded in books. That means the Vedas were composed, means they verbally, means they before they used to talk, okay? The elders used to talk and teach to the smaller ones. Then later on, over a period of 100 years, that means that wisdom, they used to pass it orally, through mouth, that means through talk, through the talk that they have in the family. That means like that they pass on their knowledge and wisdom to their, from generation to generation. Okay, that is what it meant here. So, those are the 4 Vedas, the Rig Veda, the Atharva Veda, the Sama Veda, and the Yajur Veda. Then there are some other books also. The Brahmanas, the Upanishads, the Puranas, and the epics. Epics are the extended narrative poems, like the Ramayana and the Mahabharata. These are also other important religious books of the Aryans. So all these sacred books or the holy books are collectively known as the Vedic literature. So look at that clip I have posted there. Those are the books which are included in the Vedic literature. This Vedic literature tells us a great deal about the social, religious, economic and political life of the people during this period. Social means what they are doing in the society, what's going on in the society. Religious means they are talking about the religion that they believe. Economic means the life they are doing, how they earn, how they work, all those things. And political life. Political life means it deals with the way of ruling. Who ruled them? Who were the kings? Okay, so that is what the Vedic literature tells us about. Look at another subtopic, the political organization. So here the Aryans are organized themselves into tribes called janas, because as to say, Aryans are the nomadic people. So they will not have any king or queens. So they have to form the jana, consisted of a number of villages called the gramas. So the grama was composed of a number of families. So there exists a village. So each village was headed by a gramani or the village headman. Look at this clip. Each tribe had its own chieftain or the leader, what the Aryans call it as Rajan. The ablest and the strongest man in the tribe became the king. So that means they choose a person from among them who has the capacity to rule, who has the capacity to lead the people. Okay? So that is what they call ablest. So, and moreover, who has the personality of a strongest man. So they chose that person to become the king with the consent of all the people. This person, this Rajan, so as to say, he protected them from enemies and looked after the welfare. He was also acknowledged as the spiritual leader. Spiritual leader here means the people regarded him as second to God. That means he is the representative of God on earth. Okay? Then the king ruled according to the wishes of the tribes. He was assisted by a number of officials. There are many officials who help him in his work. He did not carry his work by himself. That means he need some other people known as the officials who will help him in every field. So the person who helps the king first is the Purohita or the priest, who perform religious ceremonies and advise the king on important matters. Another person is the Senani. Senani is a soldier. Okay? This Senani was the commander-in-chief of the warriors and led the forces during war. The Rajan did not have absolute power. Absolute power here means he cannot control completely by himself. But there are 2 councils that needs for his assistant. One is the Sabha and the other is the Samiti, who exercise control over the king. The Samiti was a large assembly where any member of the tribe could give his or her opinion on important matters concerning the tribe. So the Samiti here is just like the legislative assembly that we have today, okay, where all the MLAs are sitting. Then they are talking about the welfare of the whole state. So here also the Samiti was a large assembly where any member of the tribe could give his or her consent or opinion on important matters concerning the tribe. And the Sabha was a smaller assembly. It is just like the district council that we have in this society, in our society now. Okay. So, this Sabha is the assembly of important members of the tribe. They advised and guided the king. Women also took part in these assemblies. Next is social life. So first of all, we are going to do about the family life. The Aryans lived in joint families. So their system is patriarchal. Patriarchal means they give the surname of the father. And the eldest living male member is the head of the family, known as the Grihapati. After the family life, let's see about the position of women. Women enjoyed an important position in the society. Monogamy was the usual practice. So the meaning of monogamy here in your text is the custom of being married to only one person at a particular time. Is it clear? Monogamy is the custom of being married to only one person at a particular time. So they were given opportunities for education. Some women scholars are believed to have composed some of the Vedic hymns. I've put down the clips to see the names of the women scholars in the Vedic age. No religious ceremony could be performed unless the wife was present. So women could choose a husband in a ceremony called Swayamvara. There was no child marriage and widows were all allowed to remarry. So the clip of Swayamvara also I have posted here. So the Swayamvara means a woman can choose her husband in a big ceremony. Among all the men sitting in that ceremony, that means she have the right to choose her husband in that ceremony. So now we are going to do about the food. The Aryans ate simple and nutritious food. Wheat, barley, maize, fruits and vegetables formed a staple diet. They consumed milk and milk products. They were fond of honey and intoxicating drinks like soma and sura. Meat was eaten occasionally. So here the drink soma and sura, they are intoxicating drink. Intoxicating drinks means they are just like alcohol. But during those times they made it with some kind of fruits. So they had a toxic drink to make them drunk. Then recreation. The Aryans were fond of outdoor activities. They enjoyed chariot racing and hunting. They like music and dance. Indoor activities include dice and board games. The clips I've posted there. Then the dress. The dress of the Aryans consisted of two garments. The lower garments was an unstitched piece of cloth like a dhoti tied around the waist. The upper garment consisted of a light shawl. A turban-like headgear was also worn. Both men and women wear ornaments made of gold, silver and precious stone. So now look at the clip of the religion. The Aryans believe in one supreme power, that is the creator of the universe. They worship the different forces of nature as gods and goddesses. Indra, the god of rain and thunder, was the most important god. Agni, the god of fire, was next important. It was believed that Agni carried messages to heaven in the form of smoke. Then Surya, the sun god, Varuna, the god of water, Vayu, the god of wind, Soma, the god of plants, Prithvi, the goddess of the earth, Usha, the goddess of dawn, and Yama, the god of death. So all these gods and goddesses were supposed to be different forms of one supreme being. The people recited praise in praise of these gods for good health, for the birth of sons, and for cattle. The early Vedic people did not build temples or idols. The gods were worshipped in the open air by chanting hymns and making offerings like the ghee, grain, and milk to them. The yajanas were performed by the brahmanas, and the entire family took part in the yajanas and other religious ceremony. The next topic is the class system or the caste system as we know now. The Aryans grouped themselves according to their skills in performing their certain jobs. This eventually led to the development of 4 classes or varnas in the Aryan society. The first class were the brahmanas. They were the educated priests and scholars who performed religious rites and imparted education. The second class are the Kshatriyas, the warriors who protected the tribe from outside attacks. The third class are the Vaishyas, who were composed of farmers, traders, and craft people who performed the vital task of providing food and goods for all. And the last class are the Shudras, were the laborers who served the other three groups and did menial jobs. Menial jobs means the lowest job in the society, like cleaning the drain, cleaning all the garbage of all the three classes. To conclude the chapter, look at the next clip of economic life. So at first the Aryans were nomadic people who often moved from place to place, but later they began to lead a settled life by living in open pastures, rearing cattle, and cow was considered very valuable and was a mark of wealth. The early Vedic people seem to have known about agriculture, according to the word that has been mentioned in the Rig Veda, that the plough has been made of wood. So the early Vedic farmer had knowledge of the different seasons and their effects on agriculture. The Rig Veda also mentioned different artisans and craft people, including the chariot makers. Look at the clip, I have been posted all those pictures. Chariot makers, the weavers, the leather workers, the potters, the metal workers produced weapons and other objects of copper and bronze. So the villagers were self-sufficient during this period. A child born in a Brahmana family could become a Kshatriya and vice versa. But later on, in the later Vedic period, this system has become rigid and one could not change the caste one was born into. So this is the end of the chapter, students. Thank you.